Welcome everyone to the Proven Knowledge Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Church. I'm a music producer from Northeast Ohio. I began this weekly interview series to give you different perspectives on how to approach a career in the field from different artists, producers, engineers, and other great minds who share their stories on not only what's made them succeed, but also what has shaped them into the people that they are today. I hope you gain some real proven knowledge from the show, and that it helps elevate you in your endeavors on your own journey towards success as well. Let's get into it. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to episode 135 here in the Proven Knowledge Podcast. This is the Creators Series. Today I welcomed a California native. She is a mix engineer and a podcaster. Her name is Jennifer Ortiz. Jennifer and I connected on Instagram, I believe at the middle of last year, probably the summer of last year. And we kind of just stayed in touch. We had originally talked about doing the podcast last year, but we finally got around to it, and it was a great conversation. Jennifer talked about her beginnings after school, going to Studio 770 in Orange County, California, what she learned from there, having gone from originally wanting to be in a band and play instruments to, going behind the scenes, learning mixing, doing all that, what she learned from watching other mixers, specifically in the classical and jazz genres, which led her to working with the likes of Maeta, Scotty ATL, Rock Nation, all these other people that she's worked with over the last 7 years. She talked about, what experiences she's had with artists, who she's open to working with currently, the importance of building your music business and your brand, and what that's meant to her. Just a lot of great information, and she's also the host of the co-host of the TruePeakHour podcast, which is a specifically female engineer-based podcast, which I think is really cool. And she's going to be coming out with episodes again for season 2 of that show pretty much this month, I think, at the top of 2023. So definitely looking forward to that. And just everything she's got going. I think a lot of great things. She has plans to help other engineers in the future, up-and-coming people. And I think, just giving back to the community in any way that you can is great, and I think Jennifer understands that, and I commend her for doing great things, and I hope we can connect again very soon and see how those plans have been coming to fruition. So without further ado, let's get into this one. Welcome everyone to episode 135 here on the Proven Knowledge Podcast. This is the Creators Series. Today I'm here with an incredible mix engineer and a podcast host as well. Jennifer Ortiz is here. How are you, Jennifer?
Hello. I'm so happy to be on here finally. I've seen your podcast on IG, and I've been following you, so it's an honor to be on here.
Yeah, I appreciate you giving the time, like I said, and I think I was trying to think today of how we first started, because I think you followed me on Instagram, and then I kind of reached out because I looked through your page and I was like, wow, she's worked with all these incredible people. She's got a great thing going on over here. So how did you find like my content out of curiosity?
I'm a very Instagram savvy person. So when I get bored, or basically when I'm like mixing and I'm like, I need a break, I'll go on my phone and just venture out into the Instagram world. And I follow a lot of engineers and producers, and even like a lot of speaker companies and plugin companies, everything basically. So I stay informed. And I think at the time I came across your page because I'm not sure if K.A.A.N Audio was announcing something with you, or you were announcing something with them, but they were just coming out with their speakers, and I think that's how I came across your page.
Yeah. Well, shout out to K.A.A.N Audio, because yes, I actually had them this year as a sponsor on the podcast, or this past year, by the time this episode is out, as a sponsor on the podcast. We actually gave away speakers to someone as well. So that's pretty cool. So shout out to them for that. And they basically made this happen then in a lot of ways. And I know that like, I feel the same about Instagram and stuff. Like you just find great creative people just going through hashtags, just trying to find new connections. So I'm glad that, that was able to happen and we can make it happen today. And really to start off every episode, I kind of have the guests give some background. For those that might not know you and what you do, how did you get started? How long have you been doing it? Just give us a brief description for, those that are new.
Okay. Well, I've been engineering mixing for about 7 years now. I did go to school. I went to school here in California. I went to a school called Cal State Dominguez Hills. They're located in Carson. And yeah, I did the whole 5 year, no, actually 4 year college run. Graduated with a BA in audio engineering, and then just kind of took off and started venturing out into working at studios. And I started at my official, like the official studio I started at first was at Studio 770 in Orange County. And I was there for 3 years. It was a big commercial studio. And after that, I migrated down to Hollywood, where I was able to just kind of uh, poke my head in and out different studios, especially smaller studios, which helped me a lot find networking opportunities and just talk to people, talk to A&Rs and managers. And because of that, I was able to get hired and finally run sessions in bigger studios where
Hmm.
record labels are like booking these big studios. So I've been in and out different studios in LA, so that I really appreciate that journey for me.
Yeah. So are you born and raised in California then? Like you've been there your whole life? Just kind of,
Oh,
yeah.
yes, I've been here my whole entire life. It's crazy because it's probably like the past 4 years I finally traveled out of California, and I went to the East Coast for a Christmas, and I was like, I went to Maryland, and it was just a very surprising scenery for me because I'm so used to California, and especially in California, we live all close and
Hmm.
stuff. But Maryland is just like there's so many acres and land, and I was just like, this is almost like a movie to me. So yeah, definitely born and raised, and I think I'm going to stay here for a couple more years. I don't know,
Yeah.
maybe out one day.
Yeah, it's crazy because it almost seems like the people that go to California, it's almost like the opposite. They think they got to go to LA and like find opportunity, things like that, kind of get out from like the small town or whatever. But it's like for you, it's almost like the opposite. You were trying to like go find that other environment as well and just kind of have that new experience too. So
Yes,
that's
it's the change of scenery you need.
hmm
California's dope. There's definitely a lot of connections. There's a ton of studios out here. So many people involved in the music industry. But sometimes you need a break from that. And going to the East Coast, especially in Maryland, it's just very beautiful to just kind of reset and calm down and just kind of see something different.
hmm Yeah, and that's as a creative in any field, I feel like you have to do that to kind of just recharge the batteries and get new inspiration. So I definitely want to backtrack on a lot of things you mentioned in the intro and just kind of touch bases on certain things. So I'm curious, first of all, what led you specifically to wanting to do audio engineering as opposed to, let's say, being an artist, being a producer, anything like that? Like, what kind of led you to say, I want to do mixing and things like that?
Well, when I was in middle school, I started playing the guitar. And I was very, like, at that time, alternative rock was like a big, huge thing. So I wanted to be in a rock band, and I want to be the lead singer and everything like that. But I didn't have any peers who played any instruments. So, like, that dream completely died down very quickly. So I then went to high school where they had uh, music class, they had marching band, they had jazz band, and I was like, whoa, this is a great opportunity for me to learn instrument. So I took on the trumpet, and I played the trumpet for like 4 years. Did all the marching band, jazz band, classical, anything I can join. But the last year of my high school year, I didn't. I noticed I didn't want to take, I guess, trumpet as a career. I wanted to do something else in music. I didn't want to be like the main artist, or I didn't want to be up front in the music industry. So I was like, what can I do behind the scenes? And obviously, at that time, you watch a lot of TV, and I noticed. I think I was watching like a MTV show, and it was a behind the scenes type of like segment for like, I believe it was like a Simple Planned rock band was doing their behind the scenes in the studio. So they were in the studio, and this scene they were in the control room, and I noticed there was this one guy just sitting in front of this big giant board with faders, and everybody was just going to him. Anything they needed changed, guitars, mic, needed to cut some vocals, they were talking to him, and I was like, wow, it seems like he's like the commander of that room, you know. So I was like, what is that? So I investigated, found out it was a mixing engineer, audio engineer, and I quickly started looking for any school that uh, had that career path. And luckily, I found Cal State Dominguez Hills. And the reason I went to a university was because my parents weren't going to allow me to go to a basically vocational school. They wanted me to go to university. Being the firstborn in my family, I had to set, a role for my brothers and sisters. So luckily, I am so happy I found Cal State Dominguez Hills, and they have, a BA in audio and recording, and I did the whole thing. So that's kind of that. I've always wanted to do something in music, but audio engineer was the behind the scenes. That's like my type of like,
Yeah.
like, you know.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting because I think as if you especially if you grow up a fan of music, I think a lot of people only see the front man or they only see the artist, and it's hard to kind of explain even to people that if they're just fans of music, they might not even know about these different roles that go behind the scenes of making a song or an album or whatever. So it's a great thing when you can research and you're like, well, I want to have a career here somewhere. Maybe artist isn't for me, what else can I do? So like it sounds like that was for you as well. You found that and you were like, wow, this is incredible. I'm just gonna dive into this and kind of learn the ropes and figure it out and everything. So that's awesome to hear. And then obviously after college, you said you went to Orange County Studio 77, and I had read that you were mixing specifically more like classical jazz type songs at first. So like, what was that
Yes.
whole experience like to kind of get your feet wet and get in there and just start like learning from other people around you as well that probably had been doing it for a while? What was that
It
like?
it was a lot of fun coming from like already a jazz and classical background playing the instrument. Um, it was a lot of fun watching other people perform and record, and we at the time too, where the studio is located, they're located in Fullerton, and down the street we have Cal State Cal State Fullerton, which is like they also have a big music program. So what would happen is that we would get a lot of their students booking recitals at our studio. So we would record harps, we would record violins, jazz ensemble. So it was a lot of fun watching and assisting and just recording a lot of instruments through an analog board using outboard gear. Um, so I just learned the ins and outs of a true studio where they only use analog board and they only use vintage microphones and outboard gear. So it was definitely a learning curve for me.
Hmm. How do you think that has evolved for you over the years as far as your workflow? Because obviously, nowadays you can mix everything inside the box with some plugins and some different tools as opposed to doing everything on the boards like they used to do. Because I've heard of studios now where they don't even use the boards. It's kind of just there in the room and they're using the laptop for everything. So like how have you seen that evolve in your own workflow over the years? Do you still go back on like the old boards and mix things now and then for certain clients, or like how does that go for you?
I still love mixing in the box. When I started at Studio 770, I thought that analog was the way to go. I thought that's how records should be mixed. But after, uh, working with other people, working with other mixers, and watching them mix in the box, and noticing that they mix big records that stream very well, I've noticed that there's really no, I guess, one way to do it,
Hmm.
you know? So I rarely use analog gear. The only time I'm actually using analog gear is maybe when I'm tracking a vocal or maybe when I'm tracking drums at a studio. But most of my mixes, just definitely are in the box.
Yeah. I think it's great. The time we're in now, as far as like, it really doesn't matter the tools that we use. It's more about the end result. You know what I mean? As long as you can get that sound you're looking for, most people aren't really going to care about how you got there. So I
That
think that's definitely important to realize, and everyone has their own process as well. So like once you started working with certain artists, because obviously you got credits with Rock Nation, Scotty ATL, all these people. When was kind of the moment where you were like, you felt like you could, I don't know, I'm trying to look for the right words here. When you felt kind of like the confidence level of like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, and this is like what I feel good about doing, working with these artists, helping them reach their vision and get the sound that they're looking for. Like, was there a certain moment that was kind of like the aha moment, or did it kind of just evolve over the years to where now you've just felt more and more comfortable each session, each scenario you've been in?
it's definitely been an evolving opportunity, and this is still the same way. I still feel like I'm evolving. I still feel like I'm learning. Uh, I the I think I call it as in like I think I can put it in a way where the 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 first time, the first few sessions, I stopped feeling nervous and insecure and just just scared to show up. I think those were my maybe aha moments. Because nowadays, I get called into a session. I don't know who the artist is going to be. They just send me the location. They send me the studio and the time, and I don't get that nervous feeling anymore. I feel very confident. I know outboard gear in and out. I know studios in and out, whether they're big commercial studios with a board or a small setup at home. I'm just very comfortable to just come in, do my job, make sure everything works, and give the artist the best session they can get that
Mm-hmm.
day. So, I guess having those scary feelings go away made my aha moment come to life.
Yeah, yeah. Just wanted to take a quick minute out of this episode to let you know about our current sponsor, SessionWire. If you've ever used Zoom before, then you'll be right at home with SessionWire. They allow you to connect face-to-face with anyone, anywhere by sending them a single link to your very own personal SessionWire studio. SessionWire Studio is a virtual control room that combines many familiar tools like video, voice, file transfer, chat, and storage. And it also allows an industry-first separate HQ audio channel for listening to and recording with studio quality sound. And I'm very excited to, be on board with SessionWire and have them, sponsor the podcast for the next few months. We'll also be giving away 3 versions of their brand new V3 software in April, which I'm very excited about as well. So be on the lookout for that. But if you want to, know more about SessionWire now and you want to get started today, go to sessionwire.com. And with their VIP early bird pre-launch offer, you'll be able to get SessionWire's artist plan for only $99, plus a free year of the all-new SessionWire Studio when it officially launches if you use the pre-purchase code Proven Knowledge 22. That's Proven Knowledge 22. Once again, very excited to have SessionWire on board, and stay tuned for the giveaway. But for now, let's get back into the episode. And I honestly think that every time you have to do something new, like even if you're 20 years in, I think every time you have to do something new, it's going to be scary regardless. But it's just about like, you almost have to make yourself jump off the deep end diving board. You know what I mean? Just be like, I got to do this for the progress to be made. And I agree with that. Like, it's when you're first starting out, it's much harder to kind of take that risk because you're like, well, what if it doesn't work out? What if I mess up or say something wrong or whatever? But it's like the more you do it, the more comfortable you get. And so each time, each new challenge, you're like, oh, well, I've done something like this before. Let's just do it again and see how it ends up. And that's just kind of how, especially in like music, I feel like if you're trying to do a career or anything, you got to have those moments and just kind of throw yourself off the deep end and just see how it ends up. So
100%. I mean, I think for me, it's just consistency and just not being by having that confidence in the room and just basically believing in myself and what I do and what
Hmm.
I can.
So how? Because I took obviously like a deeper dive into your social media, your website, things like that, and I love like the way your website is set up and everything you got going as far as like your portfolio building and everything. And so, how important has like social media and your website and all these other things been to helping your business out? Because obviously you want to create a business that you can get new clients, you can tell people what you're doing. How for you has that been utilized to kind of help shed light on the work that you do?
It is very, very important to me, especially when I try to reach out to new clients or new artists, or if someone's referring me to somebody else, or I'm getting referred or whatever like that. Uh, I want my page, my social media page, my web page to be the most professional it can be. So when they look at it, they know like, okay, she's definitely an engineer. This is what she does. There's no question about it. So there has been a lot of times that I've reached out to an artist, um, offering my mixing services, and I've always gotten a response, and based on them just looking at my picture and looking at my profile, skimming through it and seeing what I do, I've gotten a lot of work through that, especially through Instagram. I rarely use any resumes anymore, so people just send my Instagram or my webpage to people, and they're just like, cool, she's dope, hire her, and so it's very important to look very professional through your social media pages if you're trying to reach out or to work with somebody.
Yeah. I think a lot of new artists as well, and even this goes for engineers, producers, anything. They kind of don't think about themselves as like a brand almost, because like you are technically a brand as well if you want to do this as a business. So you kind of have to approach it how a brand would approach it. Figure out how are you going to tell your own story, how are you going to get people on board to want to work with you, and obviously like being honest, things like that. Obviously very important. You got to kind of intertwine who you are into what you do as a business, and you can make it fun because I think a lot of people they view it as like work, like, oh, I got to do social media, I got to do this. It's like if you really love what you're doing for music, you kind of have to figure that out and like make that fun, like figure out a way to make it fun, and just make it work the way that that you best know how. So
Yeah.
I commend you on that because like I said, just looking at all your stuff, I was like, she is doing some amazing stuff over here. And obviously with your podcast as well, because I want to dive into your podcast as well. True Peak Hours is the podcast. I believe you are a co-host on there. I think there's someone else on there. So like, tell me about that podcast. What you guys dive into, and I just want to know more about it because I think it's awesome.
It's that the True Peak Hour. We are in our first season. I think our first season just ended a couple months ago, so we are definitely preparing for season two. It's me and my co-host, Crystal Jerez, which is also another female engineer, and we just love it. We have a lot of great topics on there where we talk about just the first season was like almost the basics, talking about Dolby Atmos, introduction to Dolby Atmos, introduction to audio engineering, our mixing tips, the way we talk to a client, when we're in the studio, vocal producing, the different formats of vocal producing. There is a lot of cool episodes you can learn tips from, and it's just we want to basically release content, uh, that is not so focused on like numbers and how to EQ things and what plugins we use. We're more like, this is what happens in real life in the studio. This is how these are the encounters we come across, and it's just like current events but in the studio.
Hmm.
And what we do. That's our like that's the way we kind of format the podcast.
Yeah. Do you guys kind of do like live shows or anything, like Instagram live shows, or you kind of just pre-record and put them out for people?
For the first season, we had to pre-record the entire season, uh, basically 2 months or a month or 2 months before it was released. At the time, my co-host, she was expecting a baby, And so we knew that we had to get these episodes done and recorded, and I was going to edit them before she was going to go on maternity leave, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But so yes, it was definitely pre-recorded. I was able to edit everything and just kind of drop them every 2 weeks. But now that she's ready to get back in the studio, we're excited to just start recording season 2. This time we're going to do a little video content because the first season didn't have that. So we're planning on having video content, having YouTube videos, also having a bunch of guests. We already have like a roster of guests we want to interview, probably show up to their studio, see what they're doing, probably give us some TruePeak tips. But yeah, we're very excited, and it should be coming out at the top of the year too. So it would be dope for the people to stay tuned.
Yeah, that's super awesome, and congrats on that. I really gotta like go back and freshen up on season 1 because, like I said, I saw that you were doing a podcast, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. I definitely want to check it out. So I'll have to like go back and listen to all of season 1 before season 2 comes out. So I gotta feel like I gotta be ready for when season 2 drops. But yeah, congrats on that, and obviously, you know, podcasting, it's like kind of a different venture from music a little bit, but you can still be like creative with it and make it your own thing. So I definitely, you know, just from doing my own, it's like it's been such a great experience to kind of like get away from music a little bit and just like share stories and talk with different people. And so I'm sure it's going to be the same for you, especially when you get guests too.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's funny because at some time, once we were done recording, me and Chris would meet every week, once a week, and we would just sit there and talk and just record the podcast. And after that stopped, we were texting each other like, yo, I miss you. When are we going to get back in the studio, you know? So it's going to be a lot of fun recording all these new episodes and just meeting people and finally having guests that we usually don't see on, I guess, announced on other pages, other pages. I'm excited to bring these new faces on the platform.
Yeah. That's super awesome, and it's great as well to do that for the community, especially people that want to be engineers as well, and they'll be able to check it out and gain some helpful tips. So once again, congrats on that, and I commend you guys for doing that. So that's awesome. So is there anyone? Obviously, we've said you've worked with a lot of people already, and you've got a lot of accolades. Is there anyone that's kind of like someone you'd want to work with in the future you haven't had the opportunity to work with yet, or maybe just you're open to anyone as long as, you know, the vibe is right and you feel like you can bring out the sound that they're looking for?
Right now, at the moment, I'm open to work with anybody. I usually don't want to look into like, oh, I want to work with this or this artist. I don't want to force it because sometimes you don't want to meet your idols. You don't want to be me. I don't know. It's just I've had sessions with people I listen to their music, I enjoy their music, and then I ended up recording them, and then it didn't go so well. I don't know, maybe I expected a different type of situation or a different type of session or something, but it just kind of disappointed me. So from then on, I'm just like, you know what, I'm not going to look forward to working with people. I'm just going to be open and see who comes my way. And so far, I've gotten a couple gigs with like a pretty dope people that I didn't expect to record this year. So, yeah, I'm open minded at this point. I'll work with anybody, whether they're indie artists, whether they're, you know, Billboard artists, but anybody who's consistent and shows that in the studio, I'll go head over heels for them because just it puts me in the chair, and I'm like, if they're fast and I'm fast, it feels like a video game at some point, and I'm just trying to get the highest score, you know, for them. So
yeah, that's great to hear. And the don't meet your idols thing, I feel like we could make an entire podcast just about that, because there's probably so many stories that we could get into on that. But like, yes, I agree with that, but we won't have to go there today. But I think it's great that, you know, when you do meet people that you do vibe with, it just feels right. You know what I mean? It's hard to explain. It's like when you just have that chemistry rolling, you're like, this feels almost seamless. Like you just said, it's like you're just building and you just keep going. And then, the hope is that once you get one song done, leads to more songs, and then hopefully leads to working for years and years and years, and just building a great relationship with them. And so that's incredible. And like I said, I'm sure that even the credits you have now, that's good. That list is only going to double, triple over the next several years. So it's going to be great to see. So obviously you said, you have the podcast coming top of the year and everything. Is there anything else, like different projects you're working on, maybe collaborations with companies, or anything that you can shed light on to look forward to in 2023, let's say?
I just came from a trip from South Korea about a week ago. So I'm excited for all the work we did in Korea. It was, I went with producer Dem Joints, and he brought a couple of his writers and 2 more producers, and it was basically about 10 of us who we were out there in South Korea for 2 weeks, and we did 3 different camps, K-pop camps, and that was really fun and thrilling, basically jumping from studio to studio, from label to label. So I'm excited to see what songs get picked, because I loved all the songs we worked on, but I'm very excited to see what songs we kind of like, what songs end up being picked for labels or artists or on an album, whatever that is. Mm-hmm. And I'm also excited to be working with more of the Dolby Atmos mixes. I feel like now I've gained the confidence to be like, yeah, I can do this for like a living.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for that too. Other than that, I just want to continue to work consistently and keep doing recording sessions, keep doing mixing sessions, and just stay positive and invite all the good things in the world.
Yeah, that's awesome. Great to hear, and congrats on all the stuff you got coming out. So these are the last few questions here, and these are ones I ask on every episode. The first one is, if you can go back 10 years ago, maybe give yourself a piece of advice, or maybe not change anything at all, what do you think you would do?
To not overthink it. I would say don't overthink it, stay consistent, and at least believe my gut. Every time I doubt myself, I didn't go with my gut, I end up being wrong. I should have gone with my gut. Mm-hmm. So those 3 things I live by: consistency, believe in yourself, believe in yourself, and I forgot the third one, but
trust your gut.
Yeah, trust your gut.
So if we flip that then and we say, 10 years from now, obviously it's hard to look ahead into the future, but where do you think you envision yourself in your life and career as well?
I would love to have a compound where I can have a couple studios and provide teaching classes or provide internships for female engineers or upcoming engineers out there. Because when I was a young engineer, I didn't have anybody I shadowed. That's the whole reason I went to school too, is that I didn't have anybody around me who did engineering or producing or sang or made beats or anything like that. So my gateway to get to audio engineering was going to school. And I would like to have a platform or a big compound with different studios that provide internships for people, for music engineers who want to learn more about the studio environment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's super amazing, and another great way to give back as well. So that would be incredible. So do you have any final words of wisdom today for the listeners?
I would say, like I always say, just stay consistent and perfect your craft, work with people, collab with people, be accessible to people. Just keep on learning.
Yeah, all great words, and it's great to see what you're doing currently, like I said, and I'm just going to keep staying in touch with what you got going on. And again, congrats on the podcast, congrats on all the stuff you got coming out in the new year, and I'm sure we'll do this again very soon. And once again, I appreciate the time.
Yes, thank you for having me on the show, and it's always fun to meet someone else who does podcasting and does also, it's also about music. So yes, thank you so much for having me on this.
Thanks everyone for listening today. That was episode 135. We'll be back this time next week. As always, hit the support button on your podcast streaming platform if you'd like to send any funds. Feel free to leave us that 5-star rating if you enjoyed today's episode. So we'll see you then. Thanks everyone.